Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So, season 18 is officially over. As we know, Mikey Meeks was crowned America's Next Drag Superstar, beating Nene Coco in the final lip sync, with Darlene Mitchell coming in third, and Jane Don't won Miss Congeniality. On paper, I feel like that's a pretty satisfying ending. Mikey went into the finale with 4 Maxi Challenge wins, including the last 3 in a row, so she was a classic track record winner. But if we've rewarded a track record queen at the finale, it's worth asking how we got there when, just 2 weeks earlier, the biggest track record queen of the season, Jane Don't, was sent home with no warning at all. I feel like that kind of sums up season 18 for me. There were some good moments, but there were also some questionable decisions, and there's been a lot of chatter online as to whether the show has potentially lost the plot. So today I thought it would be interesting to discuss the topic of, has Drag Race got worse, and was season 18 a new low? Just to be clear up front, I'm not making this video to be negative for the sake of it. I obviously love Drag Race. The show literally built my channel and gave me my career. But when you love something, I also think you have to be honest about it. So with that, let's get started. Also, if you enjoy these videos, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you. So we're going to start with one of the biggest complaints, which is that there's just too much Drag Race now, and it's led to oversaturation. When the show started in 2009, it was 1 season per year, and the All-Stars gap was even bigger. All-Stars 2 did not air until after season 8, so when it finally arrived, there was genuine excitement because fans had been waiting for years. Compare that to now, we've had 18 US seasons, 10 almost 11 US All-Stars, and there have been international versions including UK, Canada, Down Under, Thailand, Netherlands, France, Italy, Philippines, Belgium, Sweden, Brazil, Mexico, Germany and Spain. And that's not even including things like Global All-Stars, Versus the World and Celebrity Drag Race. There's almost never a period where there is not a Drag Race season airing somewhere. Even dedicated fans are now picking and choosing which seasons to watch, and when the audience fragments like that, engagement across the franchise tends to drop. There's also no off-season anymore. The cast reveal for new seasons used to be an event, but now it's just another day. The perfect example happened recently after the season 18 finale. Literally days after Mikey won season 18, Paramount Plus already announced that All Stars 11 will premiere on the 8th of May. So it just feels like season 18 literally just finished, but already we're being told to get excited about the next season. Fans were also quick to point out online that the All Stars 11 promo visuals looked pretty much identical to the All Stars 10 promo in terms of colour scheme and overall vibe. And I think when the fandom itself is already complaining that the new season's promo is essentially a copy and paste of the previous one, that's not a great sign. But of course, I would just like to say, if you don't want to watch everything, you obviously don't have to, and we should of course never complain about there being more LGBT plus representation on TV, but I do think the oversaturation is a contributing factor as to why fan engagement has decreased overall, but also the way the show goes about promoting it as well. Now let's talk about the most recent elephant in the room, which is questionable judging. This came to a head in season 18. I did a whole video on Jane Dont's shocking elimination, which I'll link to in the description. But just as a quick summary in case you haven't watched it, Jane had the best track record of the season. She was in the top for 10 consecutive weeks and had 3 Maxi Challenge wins. She landed in the bottom once, which was her first time all season, and she was eliminated, whereas Nene Coco, who beat Jane in the lip sync, was in the bottom for the second time in a row, and Juicy Love Dion had survived 3 bottom placements at that point, so fans were understandably asking how it's fair that the frontrunner stumbles once and she's gone, while other queens get chance after chance. And it didn't stop there. The following week, Nene and Juicy both landed in the bottom and lip-synced. A lot of fans felt that Juicy won, but Nene was kept instead, so it felt like a back-to-back episode where the judging seemed predetermined. And in both cases, the queen who survived was Nene Coco, who then made it to the final two. So it's very hard not to feel like the show had already decided the end game and was working backwards from there. There was also the makeover challenge where the guest judge, Law Roach, told Discord Adams he hated her look. Discord later said publicly that she wasn't a fan of him, his judging, his work, his morals or ethics. But the broader issue this raises is that the makeover challenge has always had this problem. The criteria for what is, quote, family resemblance has never been properly defined, and the suspicion is that it's basically a free pass for production to eliminate whoever they want. And there's a real pattern of this now. The show builds up a frontrunner, celebrates their dominance, and then eliminates them through a twist or a single bad week. And every time, this elimination arguably becomes more memorable than whoever actually wins the season. So the problem isn't that these things sometimes happen, it's that they keep happening. It feels like at some point, fans just stop trusting in the competition, and once you've lost that trust, you're probably not going to want to watch a competition show anymore, because it just feels like a TV show pretending to be a competition. Let's now move on to another topic, which is creative stagnation. Aside from the judging, I feel like the show has also lost some of its personality. For me, what made early Drag Race so special was that it didn't take itself too seriously. I think back to things like the Season 4 Wrestling Challenge, where the queens were body slamming each other in the ring. There was also the Dumpster Diving Design Challenge, where the queens were surrounded by zombies. And then they had really crazy early season challenges, like the Pole Dancing Challenge on Season 2. To me, these moments felt messy, hilarious, and spontaneous. Somewhere along the way, as the show got bigger and won Emmys, I think it started taking itself much more seriously, which I can sort of understand. The challenges have become more polished, but also more controlled. So the queens now feel like they're performing for a brand rather than just being themselves. And the production is now so slick that there's no room for these happy accidents that I think made the early seasons so memorable. The queens have also stopped being as unfiltered, in my opinion, because they're worried about social media backlash, which I do understand, and that's more indicative of a problem with the fan base itself, but it does mean that the messy, memorable fights don't happen as often anymore, which is also why I think a lot of us have stopped caring about Untucked. The format of the show itself has also kind of become predictable. You can basically predict the list of challenges. There'll be Snatch Game, Rusical, Makeover, Roast, Acting Challenge, Design Challenge, and some kind of girl group challenge. For Season 18 specifically, there was no ball challenge and no writing your own verse to a RuPaul song for the finale. Instead, the semi-final episode challenge was a morning news skit, which felt a bit anticlimactic and more like something that they would do mid-season rather than at the end. Then, at the finale, it came down to the queens writing a personal song with composer Leland. But for a finale, for me, it felt a bit flat, especially because it now happens on the main stage rather than in a big theatre, which means the vibe is just not as grand. And even though having Miley Cyrus as the guest judge was a cool touch, it still ended up feeling a bit flat. There's also the AI art situation, which I talked about in a previous video. During the semi-final, the show used AI-generated artwork of the queens, which they pretended RuPaul had painted. The reason this got so much backlash and the fans were not happy about this is because Drag Race is supposed to celebrate artistry and creativity, so using AI feels like a contradiction of everything the show stands for. But going back to innovation, it's not like the franchise is unable to innovate. Canada's Drag Race, for example, has been praised for constantly bringing in new twists like the Golden Beaver, which incidentally, UK versus the World basically copied with the Chippy Tea. Canada and also other franchises like Spain have for a long time had Drag Race alums as guest judges multiple times, which is something that the US fans have been asking for years, but it's still never happened on the US version. So innovation can clearly be done, but it seems like maybe the US version has just settled into a formula and is unwilling to change it. Another topic that I don't think gets talked about enough is that the queens are now struggling after the show, and it directly affects the stakes of the competition. Queens like Selena Estitties from season 15 and the upcoming All Stars 11 has said in interviews that former contestants are struggling to find work. There are so many queens now, but not enough gigs to go around. And the queens might not show this on Instagram, but behind the scenes, a lot of them are finding it really difficult to make a full-time career in drag. You could say that this is a direct consequence of the oversaturation. With so many seasons across so many countries, it's creating hundreds of Ru girls all competing for the same limited pool of bookings. And according to these queens, the market simply can't absorb that many queens. So what's the prize of being on Drag Race anymore? If getting on the show doesn't guarantee the career boost that it used to, the stakes feel lower, and lower stakes makes for less compelling television. It also leads into how queens interact with the fandom. After Mikey Meeks won, she gave an interview with Entertainment Weekly where she basically called out the fan base for being too negative and pointed out that even Drag Race alumni themselves sometimes encourage that negativity online in order to get views. She told fans to, quote, "lighten up, it's a drag show." And I just think this shows how the environment has changed. Winning Drag Race in 2026 doesn't just mean you've won a TV competition, it means you're now a public figure whose career is partly at the mercy of how much the fandom decides to like you, or at the mercy of how you were portrayed by the editors on the show. Now let's talk about the engagement numbers, because this is where the evidence gets really hard to argue with. Jane Dont's elimination episode has a rating of just 2.4 on IMDb, which is by far the lowest rated US episode in the entire history of the show. Of course, some of this is protest voting, but it also reflects a growing dissatisfaction with how the show handles competition and storytelling. Interestingly, the finale of season 18 has a rating of 6.9 on IMDb, which is a lot more respectable. So this suggests that once fans had accepted how the season was going to play out, they could engage with the ending on its own terms. But I think it's the journey getting to that point that broke the trust of a big chunk of the audience. There's also a big contradiction when it comes to TV ratings. The season 18 premiere actually set a record. It was the highest rated premiere in the show's history in the 18 to 49 demographic, which is up 17% compared to season 17. But the premiere for season 18 featured Cardi B as the guest judge, which may have contributed to the hype. But when you actually dig into the numbers, online engagement data shows that season 18's overall buzz score is actually lower than seasons 15, 16 and 17. So the premiere got a celebrity boost, but week-to-week engagement is trending downwards. And it's not just the fans that think this. Even Extra magazine, which is usually pretty supportive of the show, posted an article called "How RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18 Went Off the Rails," describing it as the MTV era's first real disappointment. So when even the pro-Drag Race press is running headlines like that, I think it shows that the vibes are not where they should be. I've also noticed this on my own channel as well. My Drag Race videos don't pull in the same viewing figures that they used to. You could say that maybe my content is just getting worse, or maybe it was always bad, and to be honest, there are people who probably would agree with you. But I don't think it's just that. I think it's a wider shift in how audiences are engaging with the show, and maybe they're just getting tired. So that brings me to the question of, can Drag Race be fixed? I don't think Drag Race is beyond saving, and I certainly hope it's not because I do love the show. The core of the show is still great, the queens are still incredibly talented, and the format can work well when it's done well. But if I were to be so bold as to offer my humble opinion of improvements they could make, I would say, firstly, they need to try and slow down the output of the show and see how it goes. Maybe they could go back to one regular US season per year, and then have All Stars every other year to give it some breathing room. The international versions should of course continue as they are, but I think overall, all of the franchises should at least try and coordinate when they premiere, because often there's just too much crossover, which dilutes the viewership over multiple franchises. Part of what made the early years of Drag Race so special was scarcity, but right now there is no scarcity. Secondly, I think they need to shake up the challenge format. Snatch Game is iconic and it's probably not going anywhere, but not every season needs the exact same structure. What made the earlier US seasons exciting was that you genuinely did not know what was coming next. For example, although I love all of the extravagant outfits the queens now bring to the show, these custom outfits often cost thousands of dollars each, which means a lot of queens now get themselves into tens of thousands of dollars of debt just to pay for their outfits. And I do think this financial barrier prevents genuinely talented queens from competing because they just don't have that kind of money. So maybe they need to do a season where the queens have a limit on how much they're allowed to spend. Thirdly, they need to try and make the competition feel more fair. If track record genuinely does not matter, stop celebrating it as a storyline. Mikey Meeks winning with 4 Maxi Challenge wins is actually a good example of the show getting this right. They rewarded a queen who earned it. But it doesn't undo what happened with Jane Don't 2 weeks earlier. The show can fix this, they just have to do it consistently rather than only when it suits the narrative. And finally, I think the show needs to think about the ecosystem that it's created. If queens are struggling because the market is oversaturated, that's a problem that reflects back on the show itself. The prize of being on Drag Race should actually mean something. Obviously, there are of course outside factors that contribute to this which the show cannot control, but I think Drag Race as a franchise makes enough money now that they could invest some of that money into helping the queens by putting on more tours and gigs and help to create a sustainable ecosystem. Or maybe I am just completely overanalyzing all of this and blaming it on the show unfairly. But there you go, there were my thoughts on whether Drag Race has lost the plot and whether season 18 was a bit of a low point. Just to reiterate, I did really enjoy season 18 and I don't think it's the queen's fault, and I'm not saying all of this from a place of wanting the show to fail. In fact, I'm saying it because I think the show can be better, and more importantly, I think the fans deserve better. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Drag Race has lost the plot? And if you could make changes to Drag Race, what would it be? If you'd like to watch my videos before they go on YouTube, as well as see the things that I cut out of my Roscoe's recaps, as well as other exclusive content, please check out my Patreon. It just costs a few dollars a month and it really does help support the channel, and I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. I'd also like to say thank you so much to all of my amazing Patreon members. I really do pinch myself all the time thinking about how lucky I am to have all of you supporting me, and it really does make a huge difference to the channel, so thank you all so much. Please make sure you like and comment on this video to help boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And please make sure you subscribe. It's free, it only takes 2 seconds, and it really does make a big difference to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye.